Hello, hello, and welcome to Crush Your Mountain Wellness. And I got to tell you that I have another amazing person. And you know something, I don't know, it just seems to me that this podcast has catered to pretty much beautiful women from all over the world. I don't know what it is, okay? I am told that it must be the bald head. I don't know what it is. But in this case, I wanted to introduce you to a tremendously powerful lady within the field of coaching, the same field I'm in, and we share a common interest in helping individuals to lower their glucose, increase their energy, change their life, and build a new outlook for themselves. Let me tell you about Miss Annie Bush. After spending over 10 years as a federal and state prosecutor, Annie Bush changed her focus to health and wellness and connecting the physical body and the spiritual mind. Her mantra has been, it's hard to have a clear thought with a toxic body. As a nationally recognized certified brain health coach under both doctors Daniel Amen and Dale Brenton, she helps balance the physical brain of cognitive conditions such as ADD, ADHD, anxiety, depression, and cognitive decline. Using the 3x4 genetics, she utilizes her own DNA as your blueprint to drive your lifestyle choices regarding stress reduction, exercise, nutrition, and sleep. And she is amazing. As a prosecutor, if you just look at this beautiful blonde, you'd be ready to confess to anything, okay? Including assassinating Lincoln, even though you weren't born at that time. We're going to give her a wonderful welcome. Miss Annie Bush, welcome to Crush Your Mountain Health and Wellness.
Well, thank you, Henry. I had a nickname as a prosecutor. I don't know if we should start out with this, but they nicknamed me the Queen of Mean.
The Queen of Mean. Oh my goodness.
But I'm not mean as a health coach, I promise.
That's a blessing. You see, you know, we need niceness, you know. But I'll tell you something. We talked the other day about so many different things. I just want to start off with asking you to sort of define the 3x4 genetics blueprint.
But your genetics is sort of like genetics 101 is you have what are called genes, your DNA, and you have two sets, and you get one set from your maternal side and one set from your father's side. And what DNA or your genetics are like proteins and amino acids and enzymes that basically control everything that's going on in your body. You know, they determine if you have green eyes or brown eyes, if you have blonde hair or no hair. You know, those characteristics, but they also determine how much inflammation you have and where that inflammation comes from. How well are you able to detoxify? How able are you to clear toxins out of your body? And it determines what foods your body was designed to eat. So we're going to talk about diet here in a little while, or what exercises your body was designed to do. So when we're talking about your genetics, I want you to think in your mind of a bunch of switches. And that's what your genetics are, a bunch of switches. And every decision that you make throughout the day turns on or turns off one of the switches. So if you have a really good, healthy meal, it's going to turn on all the switches of all the genes that have to do with detoxification. Okay. If you eat something that's going to cause inflammation, it's going to turn on all those genes that increase inflammation. So every decision that you make throughout the day is turning on and turning off these switches. And until you know what your switches are, you're kind of just guessing.
So really, we're talking in terms of not just genetics per se, but epigenetics, which is the thing that actually guides and drives it. We're talking in terms of the environmental aspects, the changes that take place on a day-to-day basis, like food, like stress, and things like that. So when we take it down to our people, our clients, my clients, who are type 2 diabetic.
Right?
Why is that so important for them to know?
Genetically, it's important to know how your body processes sugar. How's it getting it out of the bloodstream and into the cells? Or isn't it? You know, what foods are affecting your blood sugar? How well are you detoxifying sugar? Or is it building up? Detoxification is really an amazing process. And I'm going to just talk about that for just a second, because it affects pretty much all of your processes. When you eat something or you're exposed to something that creates toxins in your body, they go through phase 1 first. So let's say you eat a cheeseburger, really greasy with ketchup that has high fructose corn syrup. And I mean, it's just nothing but chemicals, right? So you eat this cheeseburger and it's going to go through phase 1 and it's going to break it up. And what happens when you break things up, sometimes the ingredients and the chemicals and the toxins in them then become more active. And then those toxins should go into phase 2, where they are taken, cleared, and gotten rid of. Now, the issue is, if something gets through phase 1 and they get broken up and then they become what we say more active metabolites, and your phase 2 isn't working, those now really toxic metabolites get reabsorbed up into your system. And it's all over again. So with blood sugar, if you're not clearing your blood sugar and glucose, you're just reabsorbing and it's coming back again. And that has to do with your blood sugar, your glucose, has to do with your hormones. Men, that's your testosterone. Women, it's your estrogen. You know, it could be your neurotransmitters, your dopamine, your serotonin, which at really healthy levels, to keep your body in homeostasis, like a homeostasis kind of situation, we should absorb the nutrients we need and either get rid or be able to recycle the excess. So what happens is when we're not able to get rid of the excess, that's when our bodies become inflamed.
So when we think about the buildup of toxins, the buildup of these things in the body, okay, we're looking at all of these challenges. So we're finding our bodies slowing down. We're finding ourselves in the state of brain fog. We're finding that we are putting on weight that we don't want to put on. But unfortunately, the conventional route has caused us to wind up taking things like insulin, which actually is a growth hormone. It causes us to take medicine, rely on medicines that have all of these side effects. And we're conditioned to think that that's the cheap route to go. Why is that?
It's marketing. It's the prevalence of the medical industry. And, you know, some of it's generational. You go to your doctor when something's wrong, he gives you a pill, you give over your power to the doctor to heal you, they give you a pill and it doesn't. What we're talking about, crushing your mountain, is empowering you to learn how your body was designed to operate. I say that when you're born, you should come out of the hospital with your birth certificate and your genetics, because your genetics is your blueprint for your entire life of what you should be eating, what exercises you should be doing. In the 3x4 genetics report, they actually have some graphics that make things somewhat easier to understand, but there's one graphic that I love. And depending on what your situation is, it's these big, juicy fat cells that have all these little black dots all around them. And what that symbolizes is how many of these black dots you have are like little inflammatory soldiers that are protecting your fat cells. And in some instances, genetically, you may not be able to release any fat at all through exercise or diet because you have these inflammatory soldiers that are protecting them. So until you get your inflammation down and your body cleared of the toxins that is causing the inflammation, you're not going to lose any weight. You could spend hours in the gym if you wanted to, but until you get your inflammation down and get those toxic invaders out of there, and they could be things like histamines, your blood sugar, anything that your particular body was not designed to process is going to cause inflammation. So when you know your genetics, like for me, let me just tell you this. So when I first got certified by 3X4, I did my genetics first. Now, at that time, I was doing straight keto. Now, it was very clean keto, but it was keto. And I was having some digestive issues, some loose stool. And I was just thinking, well, I'm a pretty smart health coach. I'm just not making enough enzymes to absorb these foods, whether it's healthy fats or if it was protein. I had my little bottles of enzymes that I was taking while I was eating. Well, I get my genetics back. The last thing that I should be putting in my body is saturated animal fat. Okay, here I was eating keto. The other things that were going on with my body is I am in a histamine overload situation. And remember what I said, when things build up and you can't clear them, they cause inflammation. Well, I was eating all these foods that had histamines in them, and my body's not able to clear them. 2 of those foods were avocados and walnuts.
Wow.
And eating keto, I was eating an avocado every single day.
Wow.
And I had little bowls of walnuts that I was munching on because walnuts are good for your brain. So here I was thinking that I was doing something healthy, but it wasn't healthy for me.
Exactly. That's one of the things that I try to help my clients understand is that, yeah, you can eat healthy and eat clean, but there are foods that are basically for your body, things that your body responds to more so than others. And other things that might be healthy for people in general may not be as productive for you.
Correct.
So important that we do a detox cleanse, that we go ahead and do the elimination process and sort of add things in bit by bit so that they can actually find out what works and what doesn't work. So at the end of it, now they can be genetically aligned, as it were, to their diet, their food intake.
And the genetics will tell you what foods to take out. Your DNA report will say your body cannot break this down, stop it. Right. So it's taking the guesswork out of a lot of these reactions that you may be having to certain foods. And some of it you may not even realize is going on.
That's true.
Yeah, because some people can have leaky gut. We're going to talk about that without having any digestive issues whatsoever. But those toxins are getting into the brain and causing leaky brain. And for some people, they are just so used to the way that they feel, gas, bloating, right? Diarrhea, constipation, whatever it is, it's their normal. So they don't think there's anything really wrong going on.
I've come across this situation, particularly with men, women not so much, but with a lot of men. Okay, what I've come across is this what I call bowel-driven halitosis, if you understand what I'm saying.
I'll go ahead and explain.
Okay. So their breath smells like chitlins or their intestines. You see what I'm saying? I'm not Southern. I smelled chitlins one day and I said, oh my God, I don't know how they, okay? And so their breath smells like that, like their intestines. And it occurred to me that the regularity of your elimination process is what's causing that. So how do we take someone who maybe has that as one of the symptoms and move them into a position of health?
Well, let me just do a little sidebar right here. Constipation is one of the first signs of Parkinson's.
Wow, that is
so yeah, and so what constitutes having constipation? You should be going at least once a day. and not more than 3 times. Like in my situation, I was going all the time because my body was not absorbing those nutrients, and my body was just trying to get rid of them because my body wasn't absorbing them. But you should be going at least once and not more than 3 times. All right. And looking at it, you've got to look at your individual genetic report to see what's in there to make your personal adjustments. That's why none of this is cookie cutter.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And it shouldn't be, because we're individuals. And, you know, even I have 6 baby girls I love very much. 2 of them are twins. And even though they are twins, they're very different. And
right.
And their biology, their function is different from one another. You see what I'm saying? So that's just by what they intake, what they feed themselves. That has a lot to do with it. So now, being on the longevity side of things, you know, we're going to sort of geek out for a second on some stuff, because I know I don't think you have any need to biohack at all. I think they had come to you to ask you for advice, but you might have some idea in terms of the biohacking thing. So one of the hot things that are out there now, I'm going to ask you about is NMN. Have you heard about it? What do you think about it? How would that come into play when we are working with someone who is actually trying to reduce their glucose, feel better, maybe get better, maybe grow hair? I don't know.
Yeah, the hair thing is a testosterone issue, just so you know. And I want to step back. You're twins.
Okay.
All right. So genetically, they got some genes from you and their biological mother, correct? But it's not going to be the same set. And what we referred to earlier as epigenetics are going to totally influence how these girls grow. I remember a long time ago, I was in a store and I saw a friend of mine, and she had her twin girls. And one was like a foot taller than the other. Because they were eating totally different. The smaller girl didn't want anything to do with red meat. She wasn't an athlete. The taller one was eating meat and, was eating all the hormones and all of that. So it'll be interesting for you to watch your twins.
Absolutely, trust me.
As they grow up,
and they're my grandkids, so they,
okay.
So I have to really kind of keep a little bit more of a closer eye on them, so to speak. But right. Absolutely. But bring us back to those of us who would want to be that age again.
All right, for the longevity, there's 2. For those of you that are reading up on NAD and MNM and NR, there are 2 genes specifically that have to do with longevity that 3X4 tests for. One's a FOXO3 gene, and one is that SIRT1 gene. Now, I have the FOXO3 gene, which for me is a beneficial gene, which puts me at a lower risk for age-related diseases. So, yippee. And the SIRT1 gene for me, it has no impact, so it's neutral. So let's flip that. So if you had the variation of FOXO3 that made you more susceptible to age-related diseases, and with that, we're putting in type 2 diabetes. Aging to me is nothing more than cellular degeneration. The buildup of cellular damage is how we age or why we age. Whether it's from a blood sugar standpoint or from a brain health standpoint, an inflammatory standpoint, that's what causes the aging, especially with our liver. Our livers just get no respect whatsoever. And, if they're not working and detoxifying out these toxins, and you've got more toxins building up than you have antioxidants trying to combat them, that's when you're going to age. So genetically, some people have these genes that are more beneficial when it comes to longevity. And then other folks have ones that make them more susceptible.
That's amazing, because with NMN, it kind of attacks, not so much attacks, but bolsters those particular genes and actually helps individuals to regain their abilities. One of the things that it does is it really helps. It helps with your liver condition, your brain health, heart health. Okay, because it attacks I keep saying attacks. It actually attaches itself to those to the cells and actually strengthens that. Well, a while back we talked about adenosine triphosphate and how important that currency, which is part of our mitochondria, is. Well, this also is something that bolsters and strengthens that. So, but again, when it comes to thinking about the power of what we do and the community that I know I'm trying to serve, you see throughout the areas, be it north or south. As a prosecutor, former prosecutor, you might have seen the somewhat of a biased treatment. Well, that also spills over into the doctor's office, because it's not uncommon. You go to the doctor, and you hear the doctor will say, "Well, you have this, and this. Take this, and that." And 15 minutes, you're done. And the assumption is that you, the consumer, you, the patient, will do nothing else but take the medicines that the doctors are trained by the pharmaceutical industry to give you, the patient. And then you wind up going back, and you don't get better. You just kind of stay at a certain level.
Well, then you start having side effects to the medications.
Oh my God, we don't talk about that too, yes.
Yeah, let's not even go down that road. Well, this is a perfect example, and this is how this all ties in. One of the genes that we test for is the APOE gene. And that is the one that determines, or sort of kind of sets the stage for how high of a risk that you have for developing Alzheimer's. All right. It's a vulnerability. If you have an APOE 3.3, that's neutral. If you have a 4, a 3.4, or a 4.4, you are at higher risk for developing Alzheimer's. But the one thing that's fascinating about this gene is it responds really well to lifestyle changes. It responds really well to when you change your diet. It responds really well to certain exercise. Now, if you went to the doctor, a traditionally trained doctor, and you said, I'm starting to have trouble with my memory, they're going to run you through a whole battery of neurological tests, and they're going to give you a drug. Most of them are now in trials to get rid of something that's called amyloid plaque, because in the traditional medical industry, it's the amyloid plaque that's causing your cognitive decline.
And the latest science is showing that that's not the case at all.
It's not the case at all. Your buildup of amyloid plaque in your brain is your brain's response to inflammation.
Essentially, it's like a scab on the skin to protect it while it heals.
And one of the biggest risks for developing cognitive decline is type 2 diabetes. They actually in some places, they refer to Alzheimer's as type 3 diabetes, because blood sugar has such an effect on your brain, and the uptake of glucose and insulin resistance. They call it insulin resistance in your brain. So giving you a drug to get rid of the amyloid plaque isn't doing anything to affect your blood sugar.
On a very personal note, I watched both my grandmother and my mother go down that road. And in fact, with my mom, it actually kind of destroyed my career, so to speak, because I had to stop and take care of her. Right. And so, that's another reason why it's so very personal. And I look at individuals who decide not to do the things they need to do. We're living in a different day and age now. Okay, 100 years ago, we still were picking up heavy things and walking,
bring them down.
Okay, going to different places, yes. Okay, you wanted some water, you had to get it from the well. You wanted to take a bath, you had to fill the thing up. If you wanted hot water, you had to chop the wood to heat the water. But nowadays, everything is so easy. Now, I'm not complaining. I like modern day conveniences, but we have gotten to the point where the lifestyle is so sedentary, especially during the past 2 years during the pandemic. Things have gotten so sedentary. We're addicted to Takis and Netflix and Pepsi. And next thing you know, we're wondering what happened to all the weight. But it's not just the looking good. Mm-hmm. What it comes down to is the being healthy, being good in your system. And I'll tell you, when I see the results of failing to do that, it just drives me nuts, and I have to hold my head down and grit my teeth and keep going until the moment passes. You know what I mean? So tell us a little bit more about helping individuals to feel younger, to be younger.
Well, let's talk about exercise a little bit.
Great.
The genetics with 3x4 in the report, you're going to find out things like what type of exercise your body was designed to do. Now, it's going to be in the categories of, are you a marathoner? Or are you a sprint runner? Are you more adept using your fast twitch muscles or your slow twitch muscles? Perfect example of this, when I got my genetics back, I am made more for endurance. Let me go hike for 5 miles. But don't put me on a pickleball court, right? I've tried to like pickleball, but that fast twitch muscle, my body does not, it wasn't designed to do. So it's harder for me to do it. And it actually, when you try to force your body to do something it was not designed to do, you increase your risk. Mm-hmm. Okay? Your genetics will also tell you how much time does your body need to warm up and how much time your body needs to recover. Now, this is really important. This recovery period is either after exercise or even just any kind of a stressful situation. Because when you exercise and whatnot, your cortisol goes up a little bit. So, and if you don't give your body time to clear it, it turns into oxidative stress. Right. Those athletes out there that are pushing themselves too hard are actually creating more oxidative stress in their body. And 3x4 has a whole pathway of just oxidative stress. How well does your body clear the stress that is being created internally by just what you're doing? So there's two different types of toxins. Those ones that are coming from you epigenetically, right? Think secondhand smoke. Think environmental toxins like brake fluid, those kind of solvents and those smells and dirt and, whatever kind of toxins are in the environment that you're breathing in every day. The toxins that you're putting on your skin through your skincare, your shampoo, your shaving cream, what toxins are on there versus the internal toxins that you're creating every day just by virtue of you being alive.
Then we're talking about stuff like glyphosate, Roundup, that's on all the foods. Right. That's the other challenge. I have a good friend of mine, literally, we came up together back home in New York. We were in the same congregation for many years. We worked together for many years. And in fact, he was the best man at my wedding. 25 years later, I was the best man at his. And what really shocked me, it was a perfect thing. But what really shocked me, 6 years later, he's diagnosed with Parkinson's disease.
And that didn't happen overnight.
No, it didn't. But I'll tell you exactly what had gone on. The area that he lived in was an agricultural area, and glyphosate is used in that area. So that's one of the things. And they had found a correlation when they when they began using that stuff. Alzheimer's and Parkinson's became a J curve like that. So
absolutely,
it's what you're saying is so true, and I'm so glad that you're here with us and sharing your knowledge, your wisdom, your perspectives, some of the things. So now, what steps, okay, can a person take to start to rid themselves of these toxins? What steps can they take to make themselves feel better?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a great question. And it's a really good segue what you were talking about with the glyphosate. One of the things that every single person can do is stop consuming gluten. Gluten causes leaky gut. Leaky gut is one of the precursors to every autoimmune disease out there. It is a precursor to leaky brain. It's a precursor to Alzheimer's and all kinds of cognitive decline. Now, we think of gluten in our grains, especially here in the United States. Now, there's this big old argument, what's worse to our bodies, the gluten or the glyphosate? I say, don't even get into that argument. Just quit eating grains. Your pasta, your crackers, your cereals. Don't even get me started on the cereals and with children, my word. But then you have to start beyond those things that you would make out of wheat. You have to start reading labels, because the food industry will put wheat into just about anything to sweeten it up. To thicken it up. Ketchup, salad dressings, like any of your condiments. I actually did a presentation back, way before COVID at Parkinson Place here in Sarasota, and I did it on gluten. And I went to the grocery store and I bought all these common foods that you wouldn't even think of that had wheat in them. And I had everybody come up to the table and, pick things up and look at them, like everything from pork and beans to, Campbell's soup to whatever, so that they could get an idea of how insidious this was and how much gluten they were getting into their system. Mm. And then the other side of the table had all the healthy alternatives, because there are healthy alternatives. People think that if we take the gluten away from them, there are gluten-free pastas, there's gluten-free crackers, there's gluten-free everything out there. You just have to watch the sugar.
So here's the other challenge with that. Okay, I say, for instance, I was back home a few months ago, and the interesting thing is, this is a considerably well-to-do area, and it was still a food desert. So now what do you do about individuals who are stuck in the food desert? And the food desert, for those of you that don't know, are areas where you don't have access to farm fresh food. Many, especially down in the South, you go out to Walmart or someplace, even Walmart has organic food. That's can you believe that? I was
going to say.
But where do you go? How do you counteract the food desert situation? Where, okay, what can a person do at home to start to steer their bodies, their minds, their diet in the direction of healthy food?
Let's just start with what our moms told us to eat, like fruits and vegetables. You cannot go wrong, unless you get your genetics done, because once you get your genetics done, there may be certain fruits and vegetables you're not designed to eat. But putting that aside, eating more plant-based foods is always a win. Yes. Right? And then you're going to go for your clean, your grass-fed beef, your pasture-fed eggs. You're going to go, and if you can't get pasture-fed eggs, get organic eggs, right? Go for the best version of what you have available. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And really, foods that don't have a label on them don't need a label. Yeah. Because it's the whole food. And once your body gets used to eating real food again, it will really embrace the natural sweetness of foods.
Yeah. That's so very true. We have to focus. And sometimes it takes something as little as getting some seeds and growing a little tiny garden on your own.
Absolutely.
Do what you can do. The world is designed to be so busy doing nothing many times. And if we take the time to sort of disconnect and focus on the nature and start doing things. And here's the thing about it. If we do this with our children, we're doing two things. We are actually, again, providing a healthy food, but also connecting with our families, our loved ones. And that too, it promotes health on a cellular level. And the blue zones, and if you've heard me talk about blue zones on this channel before, the blue zones prove that point. If you doubt my word, I'll tell you, Annie, it's such a joy to have you here. We can stare at you all day. We say we have to quote some Shakespeare. But soft, what light through yon window breaks. It is the east, and Annie is the sun. Thank you so very much. I have to ask you one more question that I ask all of my guests. Annie Bush, what does it mean to you to crush your mountain?
What it means to me is me knowing how my body works and doing every single thing that I can do to make it work the best that it can. I'm going to be an optimal machine, right? Because our bodies were designed to last for 120 years.
Wow.
Right? And these are not secrets of how to get there. It's getting back to basics and really knowing what your body's designed to do. And it's going to then easily get you to that 120 years. It's when we're doing things that violate that and have our bodies eat foods that they weren't designed to eat. Nobody was designed to eat something out of a box, right? So it's embracing that common sense and that mindfulness and just embracing your body as you're responsible for taking care of it so that people like you and I, right, are messengers out there to educate every single person out there and empower every single person out there that you can do this too. And then we all get healthier together. Just imagine if we all got healthier together, how many industries would just sort of disappear?
The ones that don't need to be here. I'll tell you, I want to thank you so very much for, again, your energy, your insights, your joie de vivre that comes through so very well. And friends, like I said, this show, it deals with health, wellness, and personal growth. And your health is the most important thing that you can have outside your relationship with God, because you were created to be a healthy being. So now think deeply about that. Think about getting the toxins out of your system, building a new life for yourself. To that end, I want to just announce that we have our detox group coaching coming up. It's going to be here in our Facebook group. So if this is something that you want to work for you, please, by all means, come sign up. We'll leave some information for you so you can to make it available to you, let you know the times and the dates. And if you want to do it on a one-on-one basis, let's talk. We'll work that out too. But in the meantime, friends, you know what I always say. Don't just climb your mountain, crush through it, and we'll see you next time. Annie, I want to thank you so much again.